Holy mother. Hello. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I have to tell you, he didn't tell me that I was going to be following Gert and Steve Bannon. Thank you. I owe you one. The only thing that made it better is you stood up here for 2 minutes, so your expectations went back way down. I am so glad to hear. Look, I am not a leader of movements. I honestly, many times, I just wonder, America's standards are so low. That's how I got to the position that I'm in. But I am thrilled to be here tonight because I want to talk to you about some history and some things that we know from the past. Also a conversation that I had today that is remarkable with a very dear friend of mine, Edwin Black, if you know who he is. He is probably the preeminent scholar on the Holocaust, and he's the guy who wrote IBM and the Holocaust, and IBM sued him, and he quickly shut that down because they didn't realize who they were dealing with. He had all the facts and figures, and he gave me a message today that I found extremely disturbing from him that I think you need to know about, and it goes right exactly to the cause. The other thing I want to start with, about 5 months ago, I was getting a blessing before I was speaking somewhere, and something downloaded to me, and I have not felt, rarely have I felt anything as powerful, and I know when God speaks, at least to me, and I know what that feels like, and next month I'll be 62 years old, and I have struggled my whole life to know, what am I supposed to do? Why am I here? And in this blessing, I really felt, I know why I was born. And God was very clear, and I have not said this on the air in this way, and you're the first to hear. But I feel it's important because I think God is going to speak to a lot of us, and we need to listen to him. Everything that I have done in my life, including collecting what is now the third largest library of American documents, only behind the National Archives and the Library of Congress, that came on a prompting years ago of clay pots. And I didn't know what that meant until I realized that our sacred American scriptures were going to be destroyed if we didn't stand up. And so I should collect them. And when I thought about our sacred American scriptures, I immediately thought of the Dead Sea Scrolls and how they were pushed into the back of a cave and set in clay pots for a couple thousand years because they were coming to destroy them. And even on that, it felt so clear to me. But I know there's a chance that I get up to the other side and I'm like, the clay pot thing, I figured that one out. And I know God could be like, no, there was a sale at Pottery Barn, Glenn. I tried. This one I know. In that blessing, I felt there are two things that are going to come facing the world. One is Islamism and Sharia law. Two is the hunting of Jews again. I was born to stand against those things and ring a bell. I ring a bell. Those things are coming. They are coming beyond your imagination, and you must do everything you can to fortify yourself so you can stand and stand counted on his side. On his side. Let me show you some things in history that the world just blew by. And we thought, after it was all over, that it would never happen again. And we swore to one another, never again. I met with a guy, his doctorate from Oxford University. He was a doctor of ideas. And I thought that was I was like, I don't even know what that is, but let's do some surgery. What's that? Doctor of ideas is a guy who can take things that seem disconnected and bring them together and say, no, it goes in this order, and this is how that idea came, and that idea actually belongs over here. And I was talking to him, I spent the day with him, and I just loved it, and I finally got enough courage to say, I have an idea. I think I can tell you not only how this whole Jew hatred and Holocaust began the first time, and I can take you through all 19 Holocausts in history, and I can not only tell you where they started, how the thread went, but I can tell you where the next one's going to happen. And he said, no, you can't. I said, would you give me 25 minutes? 45 minutes later, he told me I should get my doctorate on that because he believed it was true. Let me give you the highlights. Start with Abraham. I believe in good and evil. I believe God and Satan exist. Start with Abraham. God says, you are my people. I am going to take this small little tribe, fewer than this room, and I am going to have you multiply more than the stars in the heaven. And you will be a powerhouse on earth. And I am God, and I am declaring that. I am choosing you. Now, if I'm Satan, all I have to do to thwart God is to make him break promises. God cannot break his promise. God must be true in all things that he says. So if I'm Satan and I'm arrogant, I'm like, all I got to do is kill the people in this room? That's easy. How many of them are there? I can kill these people. And he tries, and he fails, and he tries, and he fails, and he tries, and he fails. And each time more are killed. Each time it gets closer, but each time it fails. And every time one of these roundups, these pogroms, these holocausts happen, it jumps. It jumps from one place to another, and it drags some of it together. You know, the yellow star, wearing the yellow star, that wasn't from Germany. They didn't do that. That was from the pogrom and the Holocaust that happened in Persia years before. All of these things were gathered one after another, and they're dragged along, and Satan goes back into hiding and withdraws after the failure, and then he comes back and he repackages. Do you know who made the Nazi uniform? Hugo Boss. Check your labels, gentlemen. Hugo Boss made the snappy black uniform. Why did they go to Hugo Boss? Because they wanted it to look. Satan doesn't come scary. He comes dressed in Hugo Boss. Every time it drags and it mutates and it looks different and it learns the society, and it's like, I've got to present myself this way this time because they'll never see it this time. The last time the Holocaust happened, it jumped right at the very end. It jumped and it planted itself, and it has been waiting, and it is alive today. Let me give you some things that we got the last time. First of all, America is nothing but a slave state, right? All we did was exploit African Americans. It was our fault. We were the ones. This is a sword from one of the tribes that was selling the white man the slaves. They were rounding them up. This is a Muslim sword from Africa and the slave trade. And today, while our country, while the Western civilization had said, no more of this, no more slavery, you are not allowed to sell men and women and children in the open market, Islam is still selling men, women, and children in the open market. It is an evil ideology. Political Islam is an evil ideology. And I'm a guy who just raised money to help elect a Muslim in Congress out of Arizona named Judy Zasser. Zudi has, I've known him for 20 years. He is a Muslim. You know him, Frank. He is a Muslim who is one of the first people to stand up and say, this is an evil ideology. Political Islam is death to the Western culture. We cannot paint people with broad brushstrokes. We must know our enemy and be able to articulate it clearly. Otherwise, you will be duped by people in Hugo Boss. Let me show you this is our first foreign war was against the Muslims. You knew that, right? The Barbary Pirates. The Barbary Pirates. 2/3 of our national expenditure every year was going to pay the bribes of the Barbary Pirates. Because what were they doing? They were just boarding any ship. Because if you're an infidel, that's ours. Oh, and we can either kill you or we'll turn you into a slave. Our Marines are called leathernecks because when they went into battle against the Barbary pirates, they put leather around their necks so they couldn't be beheaded in battle. That's why they're called leathernecks. And Jefferson, when he ended it, he said, because there was no stomach for it, when he ended it, he warned the nation, you must understand this ideology. It is our first foreign war, and if you don't understand what we're dealing with, it will be our last foreign war. Thomas Jefferson. He urged people not to listen to sound bites, they didn't have them at the time. He urged people not to listen to blowhards like me, but to do your own homework. And he urged people to read something. He urged that this book be printed. This is an original from Jefferson's time. This is an English copy printed in America of the Quran. And in it, this is a first edition copy, there's a note to the reader. To the reader. Before you read this, you should know what you're about to get into. And in the end of it, it said, you shall find this, much of what you find in this book. You will wonder that such absurdities have infected the best part of the world. And you will avouch that the knowledge that is contained in this book will render our laws contemptible. Be careful. Every American, he said, should read this book. Don't take the highlights. Don't take my words for it. Read it and understand it. We are hopefully, maybe, if we're very fortunate and if God wills it, and we are humble enough and pray and he still listens to us at all, maybe the people of Iran will be free. I told my staff this morning, prepare. The world could be in total chaos by Monday when we come back to work, or we could be looking at a free Iran and free Persian people by Monday. Most people don't understand. I was younger, obviously, when I feel like Methuselah lately, but I was much younger when the Shah left. And I really didn't understand what was going on. I really thought that this was a big religious movement and that people really wanted, this religion of Islam. And no, that's not what happened. That's not what happened. Here's what happened. Marxists came into Iran. Marxists started to undermine everything. Marxists and Islamists began working together to destabilize the country, overthrow the Shah. And the United States of America under Jimmy Carter said, meh, okay. What happened in Iran is what is happening in the United States of America. Marxists, communists, socialists, anarchists, and Islamists are working to destabilize the Western world. They are working together to overthrow Western civilization, and their last stop is the United States of America. And as Steve just said, the crown jewel is Texas. There were lots of different things all kinds of plans the Russians, the Soviets had made to invade the United States. Not one of their invasion plans included coming across the border into Texas. You know why? Because they knew Texans knew who they were. They knew Texans understood the power and the grace and the goodness of this country. And they also knew Texans were armed and knew how to use weapons. At the end of World War II, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, he saw this figure rising up in Jerusalem, in Germany, and he thought, this guy is amazing. This guy is incredible. This guy has the plan for not just Germany, but the entire Middle East. He went and he presented himself to the Germans and to Hitler. And in our museum, we have original photos of the two of them together as they met. He went and he got the plans of the concentration camps and the death camps and the final solution. It's excited him so much, he said he wanted to build those all throughout the Middle East. That finally the Jew would be burned out of the Middle East. Persia, its name was changed to Iran. What does Iran mean in Persian? Aryan. We are your Aryan nation. The Grand Mufti brought the plans back. The Grand Mufti is the guy who started, was it Hamas or Hezbollah? One of the really, what is it? PLO. All of this is all tied together. When I talked to the doctor of ideas, I said, I can tell you right where it's coming from. It's going to start with the mullahs in Iran. When they say they are going to burn the Jew in the fire of the Islamic fury, they mean it. They mean it literally. Because that Islamic fury was corralled and shaped the last time it jumped. It jumped with the Grand Mufti and planted itself in the Middle East. And we dismiss it at our peril because Jews are only the first. Christians are next. 2 uniforms. This is a uniform of the Muslim Nazi SS. They were with the Feds. The Fez, which you probably can't see this, I don't know if the camera can catch it, but see the writing inside. It identifies where it was made. Dachau. That uniform was made by prisoners in Dachau to dress them in snappy uniforms to round up more people to be in Dachau. That was worn by a survivor of Auschwitz. That was worn by a man who wasn't Jew. He has a triangle on his jacket and on the hat and on the pants. And it appears today to be pink, but it was actually red, which means he was either a communist or a capitalist. He died recently. We bought it from his family. He still lived in Poland after all these years. They didn't want it anymore. We wanted it to remind people this happens over and over and over when you don't want to look at it anymore. Somebody gave me, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and an alcoholic gave me the best advice ever when I first sobered up. He said, Glenn, when you least expect it, expect it. I said, what does that mean? He said, you'll know it when you see it. Expect it when you least expect it. And it happened. It happened just like that. Something happened in my day early on in my sobriety. I don't remember what it was. But everything made sense to me that, yes, it was personally, it was absolutely reasonable to go and have a drink today. And I almost went, and then I heard his voice, when you least expect it, expect it. Because your brain knows you really well. It knows all the little paths. Let me say that another way. Satan knows you really well. And it knows all the little paths that will make something sound absolutely reasonable. May I ask and request something? And I was so glad that Steve said this. And I think Gert said it as well. But I have heard members in our own administration call this a Christian nation. We are not a Christian nation. We are a Judeo-Christian nation. Those two go hand in hand and must never be separated. You cannot take the Jew out of Jesus. You cannot take the Old Testament and separate it from the New Testament. They build on one another. This is a book that is in every hospital in the world. This is an original copy. And you'll see, I don't know if I can, you can't probably see it, but it's signed. And in some of the photographs or some of the drawings, you'll actually see it signed. And then after the signature, it says SS. Everything we know about hypothermia, everything we know about the human body, everything we know about surgery, everything This book is in every hospital and every classroom. And we debated whether we should use it or not. Some said we should never use it, and others said then they will have all died in vain. But this book, the guy who was doing the experiments to be able to get the information on this book, he actually died. He was in the same prison cell with Dietrich Bonhoeffer. How did the guy who was putting people up in airplanes to see when your heads pop, how did the guy who was taking hot water and cold water and putting it on Jews and see how fast they freeze, how did that guy end up in the same jail cell with Dietrich Bonhoeffer? Because he shared this information. And when Hitler found out, he said, "We are not trying to save the world. We're trying to save Germans." And so because he felt, this sick mind that did this felt this should be known so for all mankind, died, thank God, but died because that's not what it's for. It's for our race. This is one of the most popular books. You'll find this on the top 10, if you will, on Amazon in the Middle East over and over again. From time to time, it'll just pop up. Right after 9/11, it was the number one best-selling book for a long time in the Middle East. This is the Arabic version of Mein Kampf. We read it and say, how did people not know? How did people not know? It's right here in black and white. They said it. How did people not know? Hugo Boss told you, and it's not really like that. But they read this as an instruction manual. My good friend Edwin Black, this is his book, War Against the Weak. This is the book on how they were killing children in Germany, and quite honestly, how they're doing it again in Canada, and everybody seems to yawn. The 5th leading cause of death now in Canada is medical assistance in dying, MAID. The 5th leading cause, and they're about to open it up for teenagers. If you are depressed, you can apply for medical assisted suicide. They are now talking and debating in the next 18 months about if you are mentally handicapped. Does any of that sound familiar? But this time it's cloaked as compassion. The scariest people in Germany were not wearing the black uniforms, they were wearing the white coats. It's interesting. At first, people laughed. Dr. Fauci is not a laugh line. I want to leave you with a couple of things. First, what my friend Edwin Black told me today. I've known him for 20 years. He is a serious scholar. He is not somebody who goes off half-cocked. In fact, I have been ringing this bell for 25 years going, Holocaust, Holocaust, Holocaust. We're planting all of these seeds really bad. And he would tell me all the time, Glenn, there are 8 steps to the Holocaust. We're only at 4. And even, and even if we were at 6 or 7, it doesn't mean that 8 will happen. We pay attention and we know where we are on the chart. So we make sure DEFCON 2, DEFCON 1, we know where we are on the chart. And we pay attention to it so it doesn't end there. But it doesn't have to end there. He has told me that for 25 years. Today, he told me, the Holocaust is now in its planning stages, and there is no way to stop it. It is happening, and it will happen again, this time all over the world. This is a dear friend who I admire for his knowledge of history and the fact that he is so buttoned up. We are facing unbelievable times. Every day, I wake to either unbelievable evil and horror or miracles. Every single day. Lord, what are we going to see today? Glenn, today, in the next few days, you're going to either see Islamists crush, or you're going to see the Persian people set free. And it will be up to each of us in our own way. God works miracles, but he does require more than spectators. We are not saved by our works, but I will tell you, I don't think he's going to recognize a lot of us if we're sitting on our hands at this time in our lives. Raoul Wallenberg is one of my heroes. You know, I start to say this and I think of why I was born, and I was born to tell you these things, and it's why my whole childhood makes sense. And my love for people like Raoul Wallenberg makes sense, so I can be prepared to tell you who you should strive to be. Raoul Wallenberg was a guy who didn't have to be involved. He's from Sweden. There's a statue of him, but no American knows. I did an interview with an autobiographer, a biographer of Raoul Wallenberg years ago, and she came to America, and there's this beautiful book on him. I mean, he makes Dietrich Bonhoeffer look like a wimp, and that's saying something. During the interview, she broke down in tears with me, and I said, I'm sorry, did I say something? Because I was asking her a question. I'm sorry, did I offend you? She said, no. I've been on a book tour all over the world and all throughout America, and you are the only journalist who knows who he was. He came from a family like R.H. Macy. He was wealthy. His family they owned a huge department store, huge industry. He had no reason to get involved. And the United States came to him and said, something is happening with the Jews. We need you to accept an ambassadorship of your country. We need you to go to another country, and we need you to tell us what's going on with the Jews. And he did. And we didn't listen. And he gathered more evidence, and he went to England, and they didn't listen. So he gathered more evidence, and he went to Switzerland, and they didn't listen. They listened, but they didn't want to believe. He finally went back and said, I don't need anybody to listen. I'm here. And he began making these, the Schutzpass. This basically says, you're now a Jew and you're a citizen of my country. You're no longer, you don't have to worry about it. You're under the protection of my king. Now, remember, his king was under the direction of the Nazis at the time. They had been invaded. His king called him as he was making these and saying, you don't need to wear that yellow star anymore. You don't need to fear. You're under the protection of my king. His king called and said, what are you doing? You're going to get us all killed. He said, you want me to stop? You come here yourself and stop me. I have a typewriter. I have a photographer. I'm taking their pictures. I'm making these Schutzpasses. You want me to stop? Come stop me yourself. He took his wealth and he bought an entire city block next to the embassy of his country. And then he would go to the train station as they were loading the Jews on with Schutzpasses. And he'd stuff them through the cracks of the train. And he'd say, everybody, pass these amongst yourselves. Everyone, take one. And then he would run to the front of the train and he'd say, stop the train. You have the wrong people. These people belong to me. He saved over 100,000 people. He is forgotten in history because America forgot him. He was last seen running into the arms of the Soviets as they came in to Budapest. One of the last people, I have one of the last Schutzpasses from a woman that he helped get out, and she begged him, please, Mr. Wallenberg, come with us. They're coming. The Russians are coming. Please come with us. You've got to go. And he said, there are too many left to save. And the Russians can't be as bad as the Germans. We don't know how his story ended. Thank you. We don't know how his story ended. There's three ways. One, he ran into the arms of the Soviets and he was shot on the spot. Highly unlikely because there was orders from Stalin. Stalin wanted to interrogate him himself. Second version, he died under torture in Moscow with Stalin. And the most horrific, to me at least, is that he died in a prison camp at hard labor in 1972. The first president that demanded an answer, what happened to Raoul Wallenberg, was Ronald Reagan. I want to challenge you to find someone in history that inspires you. Find somebody that you say, I want to be more like that. When the crap hits the fan, I'm going to be like that man. Because if you don't do it now, you will not do it. If you don't prepare now, you will fail. Character isn't made in hard times. Character is revealed in hard times. Build it today. Model yourself after somebody that you think has done amazing things. And the great news is there are millions of examples. Find that individual. Keep a picture on your desk. Put it in your car. Put it in your wallet. Whatever you see every day, put it on your phone. Put that picture or the pictures of the people that you want to be more like in front of you all the time. It's like a council. When tough times come, you'll know exactly how to behave because you will look at your council and say, I know what they would do. One last challenge. It was in the 1500s when the Ottoman Empire came. And they came to Malta. They just had to go through Malta. I don't even really know where Malta is. They just had to get through Malta. Ships with 40,000 Ottomans ready to plow through Malta and conquer Europe. All they had to do was go through an unfinished fort, the fort of St. Elmo's. They just had to get past 600 soldiers and 130 knights. 40,000. They make, honestly, I know I'm saying this in Texas, so I know this is blasphemy, but it makes the guys at the Alamo, they look like pussies compared to these guys. Okay? 600 soldiers, 130 knights. That's it. Wave after wave after wave coming in. And those knights, as they saw them on the ships coming in, imagine the view. It's just nothing but wall-to-wall Ottomans coming. And they're all looking at each other going, holy crap. They knew they were going to die. They didn't send for reinforcements. They sent some people away and said, go fortify. We'll hold them as long as we can. Expecting to die within a couple of days. Under constant siege for over 30 days, they killed 10,000 Ottomans. Every single one of them died. But you know how they died? They refused to bow to the Ottoman Empire. They refused to bow to Sharia law. When they came in and they finally found all of the knights, they had taken their broadswords and shoved them into the ground and draped themselves over the cross of the broadsword. So they were still standing and still upright. They refused to bow. They had a few things that I want you to take with you. They had a code among them. Faith before life. First, loyalty to God, not my survival. Loyalty to God. 2, honor above outcome. We live in a society where the ends justify the means. Stand firmly against that. Honor above outcome. Courage without illusion. I am not here to tell you this is going to be easy. I am not here to tell you Donald Trump's going to save us. I am not here to tell you some won't fall, that Europe is going to be fine, that Texas will even be fine. I'm telling you it could be the fight of our lives. I am telling you that people generations down the road, unless Jesus comes, if we still have historians, 100 years from now, they will write about you. There will be someone like me who will bring an artifact from Texas and say, this is how they did it. This is who we should be like. We live in extraordinary times. Courage without illusion, and brotherhood unto death. No man fought alone. We're in this together. We will fight together. We will pray together. We will love together. And so help me God, we will survive together. Thank you. God bless.